offensive coordinator, ShaDon Brown, and defensive secondary coach. Questions for Coach Brown? Greg?
So, ShaDon, start with the secondary. It used to be just corners, and so you're taking safeties too. So how big a deal is that for you? Just explain the thought process behind combining all that.
Yeah, well, in the past, I've been primarily working with the corners in a practice individual setting. But if you look at my career, where I've been, I've coached the entire secondary at multiple stops at the Power 5 level. I love having one voice in the room. When I took this job, there was already a safeties coach in place. In the best for our staff was myself to coach corners, because I've coached corners and safeties. And so when we had a staff change, I felt like it was best to have one voice in there. And so me going back and coaching the entire secondary is probably a little bit more in my comfort zone than the opposite. So it's going well right now, and I like how it flows.
You going to Coach Brown and saying, "Hey, I think this will work better"? Did he ask you? How did that come about?
I think it was a mutual decision. The head coach makes all the decisions, and he came to me and asked me, how did I feel about it? And I was all for it, because again, that's what I had done at other stops. When I was at Colorado, the last time I did it, I had the whole secondary, and and when I was there, five of the 9 guys that I coached in 2 years are still playing the National Football League. So we had a good run of doing it there, and I think it just takes some. What it takes is some pre-planning. You got to do a really good job of pre-planning, and I utilize my GAs and my student assistants really well. And those guys have been with us for now 2 years, so they know exactly what I want and what I expect. And so it's been pretty smooth, and I'm excited about how we're operating moving forward.
Just help with communication. What's the biggest benefit of that? Not that Dante did anything wrong, but what helps to have just one voice?
Well, one voice. Everybody in here can say the same thing, but say it differently. You're not going to say the words exactly like the next guy sitting to the left or the right of you. So now there's one voice, there's one way of speaking it, there's one way of teaching it. And so I feel like now, as a whole secondary, when there's a question or an issue, they're coming straight to the source. As opposed to in the past, I was involved and had my hands in everything, but from a day-to-day management standpoint and on-field coaching, the safeties coach was handling those guys, all right? And so now, whether it's a safety corner or nickel or spear, the information is funneled from one place.
You've got a lot of new pieces in that entire group. A few guys back, but a lot of new ones. Give us a look at the new ones and what you're seeing out of them.
Yeah, well, we'll start outside. We brought in a couple transfer corners. The first guy, Aiden Garnes, transferred from Duquesne University right up the road. We actually played against him, watched him on film when he decided to go into the portal. Really watched a lot of the film against us, and he did a really good job. He's really fast. He's not as big as we wanted early on, but he's put on about 15 pounds since he's been here. He's really fast. He's coachable. He's a tough kid. He's a Philly kid, so he's got an edge to him. So he's been a pleasant surprise, as well as kind of a I would say a steal of the portal is Garnett Hollis, who's a 6'1.5" to 6'2". That's what pro guys look like. 6'2", 205, and he can really run step for step. E.J. Horton is a 4'3" guy at receiver, and he's step for step with him on any go ball, so he can really run. And I think the sky's the limit for him. We're doing some things differently than he did at his previous stop at Northwestern, but he's a guy that's really made a huge jump. And then T.J. Crandall, transfer corner from Colorado State. He's really a young guy. Most of the time when you bring in a transfer, you think that young man's a junior or senior. Well, he's still a freshman. He played 1 year. He was at Colorado State 1 semester. So he's a second semester freshman as we speak. So he's doing a good job of learning what we're doing. but he's elite fast as well, and he's got great length. And that's what we wanted when we went in the portal. We tried to add guys that could really run and guys that had some length, and I think we hit on that at the corner spot. And then at the safety spot, we brought in, obviously brought in Jaheim Joseph, he was a backup safety at Northwestern, was a starter in their last 4 or 5 games. We identified him when he went in the portal. And we really, it seems like they recruited 2 DBs from Northwestern. We really recruited those guys independently. One went in before the other. So Jaheim went in before Garnett, and so we recruited them independently, and we were lucky to get both of them. And Jaheim's playing deep safety for us right now, and he's a guy that has position flex to play spear or cat safety. But today, right now, through this part of spring, we hadn't worked him down yet, but we'll do that the last half of the spring.
Even though you did recruit them independently and they're both independently deserving of coming here, what kind of advantage is it that they are coming together, that they at least have a friend already entering the facility? And it's a little different than being the Lone Ranger, kind of like Beanie was last year, and then obviously had a great year, but they have a partner.
Yeah, well, the benefit is they live together. So they got an apartment together. When they came, their families knew each other. So they were able to kind of navigate Morgantown together. So that was really good. When you come in from a new place, Garnett is actually from Nashville, has a ton of family right up the road in Akron. So he's been in the area before, and so with both of those guys coming together, it was kind of an easy transition because when all of our guys went out on spring break, those guys came and were here all for an entire spring break, starting working out and training with Coach Mike and his staff. When all of our guys were laying on the beach, them guys were here trying to learn the schemes and spending time in the weight room getting acclimated.
Don, last season there was a lot made of maybe interceptions that didn't come about, could have been caught. What's being done, I guess, to rectify that? What can be done in the spring?
Yeah, so we, all winter we've worked really hard with, catching balls and charting and doing competitions and just trying to get our hands on more balls and catching the football, and more so than just catching the football correctly. And when I say that, I say, if you don't, whether you're receiver, DB, it doesn't matter. When you catch the football, if you don't get your hands together and take your head and your eyes to your hands, which is where the ball's going to be, you're not going to be great at catching the football. And so we've done that a ton all season. We've charted it. We've had some guys that have caught 2,000 balls throughout the winter. And when I say throughout the winter, I'm talking about starting in January when we first got back. We started there. And then we work on catching jugs every day. And then what we've got a policy in place with the guys now that if you drop a pick with that you get 2 hands on in practice, you got to get 25 jugs after practice. And so we're trying to do that to give guys an opportunity to catch the ball more. And some guys are improving. Some guys are not where they need to be, but that is an emphasis. I tease Beanie. He's been here today. He would have been the Thorpe Award winner, I'm pretty sure, if he would have caught about 5 more that he knocked down. So,
Other corners for you besides the new guys that are here. So it's Spells, one of the Jacksons. Just go through what your corner situation looks like.
yeah. So Jacoby Spells is doing a good job. He's been nicked up a little bit, so you probably didn't see him out there today. But he's been nicked up a little bit, but he's going to be fine. And then you look at Montre Miller. Montre Miller's come back. He appealed and got a medical red shirt. He was hurt there in the Penn State game last year and didn't play the rest of the season. So we got that year back. So he's going to be a guy that's in the mix. He's a guy that's he's had some good plays. The big thing for him is being a competitive guy all the time, and he's doing a much better job of that. And I think anytime you transfer, the hardest thing is you're in a new environment and you got to reestablish yourself, not from just being a player, but in the mix of how we do things and trying to be an alpha when you were the alpha at the place you came from. And so he's doing a much better job of that. And then the guy that's probably made the biggest jump has been Jordan Jackson. Jordan Jackson's made a tremendous jump. He's a lot stronger. He's gained about 15 pounds this winter. He's in the mid 180s, which is good for him. And he's fast and he's gotten strong, and you can just see that in his body. But the big thing that he's done a better job of is he's gained confidence. And he's gained that confidence through I think getting stronger and having more knowledge about what we're doing, which gives him confidence to play fast. So I'm pleased with him. Is he a finished product? By in no means. He's not there yet. But being a redshirt freshman, he'll have a chance to help us this fall at one of those two corner spots.
We were talking with Victor Cabral last week. He explained us a little bit about, the way his positions have changed a little bit since he came on board. Is there any change? Does that affect the back end any? Does the cap play a little bit differently, or your guys in the back end still kind of the same?
No, it doesn't change us at all. Schematically, we are who we are. We're going to be the same. It doesn't change at all. We're trying to get our Spurs in the rush a little bit more. We brought in Ty French. Tyron Bradley's a big, powerful guy. If we can get those guys rushing the passer a little bit more, is what we've tried to do this spring. To give those guys a chance to go rush the quarterback, obviously, so they're in a little bit less coverage this spring. But that doesn't mean we're changing what we're doing. We're just giving those guys, some at bats. You walk up there in baseball, you get at bats. They're getting at bats by rushing the passer.
So you're still trying to be as interchangeable as possible between Free and Cat, and maybe even Spear, as you mentioned some.
Yeah. So those guys are really all working together, and we'll have some guys that can't go back and play. But like today, Aubrey Burks played 50% of the snaps at Cat safety today, all right? And he's played 50% of the snaps today at Spear, all right? So I can move him around at any time, and I'm doing that to give him both reps at both spots, but we're doing the same with some other guys. Aiden Garnes can go play nickel, which he did some today. So we're mixing and matching those guys, and the main thing is obviously to enhance their skill set, but the second piece is it adds to our depth, and then it allows us to see as coaches what guys are best at. And then we can put the pieces in the best fit for them to be successful, which is a win for the kid and a win for West Virginia.
What do you ask Anthony Wilson to improve upon?
Anthony's got to improve on as a cover guy. Anthony's a good tackler. He was one of our top 3 or 4 tacklers last season, and he did a good job. And we did things to fit his skill set. His skill set was coming downhill, fitting the box, playing behind the linebacker, and we did that a lot, and he was successful doing that. When he struggled last year, he struggled in pass coverage. So what we've harped on and tried to work on with him is just body positioning and understanding leverages and doing a better job of teaching him the pass concepts. And that's some of the things that he was not asked to do prior to coming to us, and so he wasn't good at that. And so this offseason, coverage has been his focal point. We know he can fit the box. We know he'll go put his shoulder pads on a ball carrier. But if he's going to take the next step for us and where we need to be, he's got to be able to go cover the number 2 in the slot. And he's done a better job of that, in one-on-ones. One-on-ones is kind of an offensive drill because it's all that open space. There's no pass rush. The quarterback can pat the ball for 5 minutes if he wants, right? But he's done a better job of just body positioning and being able to break top down on routes is what he didn't do last fall.
Other safeties above and beyond the ones you've mentioned, Tagaloa, Nelson, Josiah Jackson, anybody else in there?
Yeah, so I'll hit on all those guys. Josiah Jackson's a guy that's also made a jump. He's gotten a lot stronger this offseason. He's able to control his body a lot better, which has really been a benefit for him because the weakness that he had was just lower body strength. And so in space, he struggled to change direction, and at the point of contact, he was always getting knocked back. And that's just lower body strength, and he's done a good job of adding weight. He's in the mid-180s as well, and he's done a really good job of learning cat safety, which is where he's at right now, and he's made some nice plays coming downhill. And he'll continue to get better at that at cat because obviously he was a corner that we moved to safety, so he'd never done that before. And it's a little different seeing the field from inside out as opposed to outside in. So he's making a lot of progress. And then talk about Aiden Nelson. Aiden Nelson's a guy that he doubled up duty and went and helped our basketball team out, and I think that was great for him, and I'm sure he helped them on their ready teams and things of that nature. But he didn't miss a workout, and when he got back to Morgantown at 4 a.m., even when we didn't think he would be here at a 6 a.m. workout or a 7 a.m. lift, whatever it may be, he was here every time. So that tells you where his commitment level is, and he's made a big jump as well. Some things are still really fast for him because, again, he was a guy that was an offensive player in high school. And so being able to handle a bunch of moving parts has been kind of his biggest thing, but he's made progress. But athletically, he can do it. And then some of those young guys that have come in, Israel Boyce, freshman that early enrolled, as well as Zay Jennings, freshman that early enrolled. It's going really fast for them right now. But from a physicality standpoint, those two guys are not afraid of contact, and they're strong at the point of attack. Like Zay Jennings may have the best strike and get off of blocks that we have in the defensive secondary. And so I think those two guys are going to be guys that can immediately help us on special teams, which is where you need to steal some reps from some of those old guys that are going to play a ton. Those young guys got to come on. I thought last year that's where we lacked a little bit down the stretch. We didn't have as many young players that could man those special teams units, that we had to play some starters there. And, those reps really add up as you go throughout a season.
Don, what is the difference in the mentality of the safeties as compared to the cornerbacks?
Well, at safety, you're the quarterback of the defense. You got to make communications to both sides. You're telling the linebacker, the outside linebacker, inside linebacker, and the corner to your side of the field what to do on each particular call. So you have to have a quarterback mentality. At corner, the difference is you listen for the call, and then you execute the call. The hardest part about playing corner is you got to play the ball more at corner with your back to the basket. Right? And I get into basketball terms, right? We're in the Final Four, and you always say, man, he can play with his back to the basket. Well, when you play corner, the ball's being thrown behind you a lot, and so you got to play the ball from behind you. That's the hard part, right? It looks easy when you write about it, but I promise it ain't easy, okay? And at safety, you play the ball more in front of you. Everything's more top down. So that's the difference from a structural standpoint and coverage standpoint. And then run game wise, as a safety, you got to do a lot more fits in the box, almost like a linebacker. At corner, your fit on the run game is really, really wide, and it has to go through a lot of layers to get to you. But at safety, you're in that fit a lot more, and balls are getting spilled to you, so you got to know your run fit, you got to know your pass fit. But, oh, by the way, I got to tell everybody else what they're doing. So you got to be really smart to handle that, and that's where young guys really struggle. It's because the volume of things you need to know. And, the big thing that I talk about with them is if you have knowledge, you'll have confidence, which will allow you to play fast. Well, if you're playing slow, it's kind of paralysis by analysis, especially at safety. I think a young player can probably play faster at corner than they can at safety just because of the mental part of it. Does that answer your question?
What role, if any, has Beanie played in some of these new guys coming in and some of these transfers?
He played a big role, a huge role. It's an easy sell when you can say, hey, this guy came in for 6 months and we made him a consensus All-American. I mean, the proof is there. It's not coach speak when you can show that. And Beanie's done a good job. Beanie helps recruit some of these guys. He'll get on the phone with guys. I use him, though, and a lot of transfers. A lot of people don't know this, but in the transfer world, they reach out to guys on the team or that have played there and get information. Even when we don't know as coaches, or you media people are fishing for information, they're fishing too, and they call. Like Beanie will hit me up and be like, "Hey, such and such messaged me on social media. Are you messing with this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, tell him the truth." And so he's helped us a ton in recruiting, and he's a great ambassador. And y'all probably seen him walking around. He's here right now. He's back in town prior to the draft.
Does he ever even take it one step above that and kind of tip you off and be like, hey, you should look at this guy?
No, he doesn't do that. We got a process. We've got our personnel department, and when a guy goes into the portal, like everybody else in America, they pre-screen, and then they come to me and say, hey, there's a guy you need to watch. I watch him. If we identify him as a guy that we like, then we go all hands on deck and go full speed to go get that guy and try to get him on campus. And as you guys know, with the portal, it goes really fast. It's kind of like speed dating. You got to get to know them real quick. You got to like them, or you got to love them and marry them, or you got to go to next. And I always tease Coach Brown about this, but he wears me out because he says no more than he says yes, and he does that because of our culture. And our culture is really strong because we've trimmed some fat, and we don't bring in guys that have been cancers at other places, no matter their talent. And if a guy's not a fit for us, Coach Brown, sometimes he makes me mad. I've known him for a long time, and he's like, nope. And I'm so mad because I know the player's good, but he's looking at from a 30,000-foot view of what is that guy with his character and his whatever he's bringing to us, what's that going to do to our locker room? And if it ain't going to enhance the locker room, he ain't going to take that guy. And that's why our program is so much better now. Kudos to him and what Coach Brown's done in trying to build the program. When everybody wanted to run us out of here, he was still trying to build the culture of the locker room. And, man, our locker room is strong, right? Those guys like each other down there. They hang out with each other. Our culture and the character in our locker room is really good, and that's why when you get down at Baylor, whatever we were down, and we go back and come back and win the game, that's because our locker room's right. Right. When you have adversity, when you have poor locker rooms, when you have adversity, people point fingers and they fight, or they don't come together. When you have a strong culture, strong locker room, they pull together and can pull out close games. Right? You guys have been in sports for a long time. You see teams that always win close games. Well, they probably got a great culture, and so that's where we've taken the next step, and we've done that with transfers as well. So,
You have to add more luxury or necessity to get a portal guy this summer in the secondary?
yeah, it'll be a luxury guy. If there's something out there that is that is an elite player that can enhance our football team. I'm always in the business of enhancing our team because it's about wins and losses. And so if it can enhance our team and it's the right type of person and character and player, then we'll go with them if we need one.